My name's Andrew Maitland. I'm Head of Operations at Cortex Organics. We do a lot of organic synthesis, and that leads us to need to do an awful lot of chiral and achiral separations. Our most difficult work is, of course, the chiral separations, and that's one of the things that this machine has become most relevant for. My day-to-day is generally comprised of synthesis and separations, as it is for most organic chemists. What we do is problem solving, essentially, for usually pharma companies who have a particularly difficult problem that they need synthetic work done on. Because our separations are necessarily quite difficult, we usually of course start with flash chromatography if that's available, and we have the Teledyne machines for that. Because we had already become familiar with the Teledyne flash chromatography columns, that's why we moved to using the Teledyne Prep HPLC columns, and then that's why we bought the Teledyne SFC, because the software is so familiar to us, it was easy to transition. We didn't have any previous SFC experience. All of us here in our careers at Cortex and previously in our academic careers were experienced with HPLC, chiral and achiral, but we didn't have any experience with SFC. So that was also the main reason that we wanted to get the Teledyne machine for SFC, because it was so similar to the HPLC machine. We would at least know how to use it a little bit more easily. Transitioning into SFC obviously had its challenges. Just the physical setup of it is very different, and getting that to work in the first place was quite challenging, but Teledyne have representatives who are good at supporting that and obviously are very experienced in setting it up. Once it's actually functioning and you've got it properly working, it's really quite simple to maintain. The benefits, such as having much less solvent to concentrate after your column, and also the massive reduction in time are obvious. But the challenges, once you've got over the initial step of learning how to use SFC, are really very few, and the challenges are mostly about difficult separations. Generally, we find ourselves using the SFC now for our most challenging separations. The reason for that is usually throughput, because we've got two Prep HPLCs, forward and reverse phase, and the SFC can obviously do those easier tasks as well, but we tend to use it only for the most difficult things. For us, one of the main benefits of SFC is about throughput, because we're using standard Prep HPLC chiral columns, which we can put anywhere between 10 and 50 mgs of material onto for a chiral separation. If we were doing the same on normal phase HPLC, we would probably be able to achieve similar separation with a similar amount of optimization. But the benefit of SFC is the throughput. So we can run that same run, which can take anywhere as short as 3 minutes once it's optimized, as many times as we like. We can stack those injections and we can get a few grams of material through in a really quite short time. A lot of the difficult problems that we deal with and the difficult purifications would be things that would, without the HPLC and the SFC, be things that we would have to send to purification specialists. So we're not only avoiding a cost there, but we're avoiding a time cost. It lets us be much more efficient. One of the main benefits of the SFC is the time to concentrate the fractions at the end. Obviously, there's a lot less solvent than you would get with Prep HPLC, but also in reverse phase Prep HPLC, which we do a lot of, you end up with an awful lot of water, and either you've got to concentrate that or put it in the lyophilizer. We tend to use the lyophilizer because it makes our lives easier, but that has an added overnight time at least to get rid of all that solvent, whereas with the SFC, we're getting rid of that solvent instantaneously. Because Prep SFC is so different as a technique compared with HPLC. That's obviously one of the challenges we've had in learning how to use it and in how to optimize the separations. The behavior is quite different, but obviously that has the massive benefit of making the separations quite different as well. So with this machine, we've been able to do a lot of separations that we wouldn't have been able to do beforehand. And that is really good for setting us apart and making sure that we can pretty much purify anything that comes across our benches.